1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Her body, her choice, her decision, her voice. 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 Now we will fight for reproductive rights, We will fight for reproductive rights, Back to the chorus. Her body, her choice, her decision, her voice, her body, her choice, her decision, her voice. And women's rights are human rights, Women's rights are human rights, Back to the chorus. Her body, her choice, yeah, her decision, her voice, her body, her choice, her decision.
You know, I'm a millennial, and there's a joke going around social media right now that we're really tired of living in historic times because it just seems like one thing after another, and we can't get any freaking rest. And you know what? We can't. I'm sorry to say, we have to stay on guard, be out here, because the minute we rest, they're coming for our rights. They're coming for the rights of women, trans people, black and brown people. One after another, the dominoes will fall unless we get out there into the street and raise our voices and show them that we're not freaking going anywhere. We're gonna fight back, and that's what we did today. And as we're marching through the streets on Northalsted, I saw a ton of people out in their balconies in unison with us, and that's why it's so important to be out here. Because we're out here, and then they'll come out here, and then everyone will end up out here, and then the court and the Congress will know that we won't just sit down and be quiet if they take our rights away.
I am Linda Lowe, an activist and founding member of Chicago for Abortion Rights. I was also active in the fight to legalize the right to choose abortion before the historic Roe v. Wade decision. That is not a world we want to go back to, nor ahead to a world even darker by a growing right-wing assault on all of our rights. On our behalf and our many co-sponsors, we welcome you to the streets of a community that knows well what it means to fight for rights, for gender justice, against police abuse and brutality, and for racial and economic justice. We are here because we are facing down an unacceptable threat to cut off the rights of millions of women and also transgender and gender nonconforming people to exercise control over all of our bodies and lives. We're here because that historic 1973 Roe decision has been the law of the land for nearly 50 years and is now hanging by a thread. We're here because upwards of 80% of Americans agree with us and support keeping abortion safe and legal. And we need to see those millions filling the streets of our cities and towns and Washington, D.C. before the court rules. Roe is technically still the law of the land, and we must defend that it be upheld. We are here because many of us see that neither of the two parties in power has been able to save us. We cannot rely on them. We have to mount massive pressure to demand our rights. We are here because history has taught us that when we rely on our own power, we can bring great change. We are wearing green because we are in solidarity with and inspired by hundreds of thousands of abortion rights protesters in Colombia and throughout Latin America who have taken to the streets and won decriminalization in some of the most conservative countries in the world. A few days ago, one of their leaders of the Causa Justa, a coalition of abortion rights groups, was quoted in the New York Times saying, As the U.S. faces growing restrictions on abortion, feminist activists in Latin America are increasingly relying on one another for legal strategy, organizing tactics, inspiration, pointing out that their counterparts to the north might have something to learn from them. That's us.
That's right.
It's now an inspiration going from south to north. We are going to inspire people in the United States to defend the rights set out in Roe v. Wade. That was from Colombia. Green has been the color of their signs, banners, bandanas across the continent. Millions of people in this country will have their lives upended and many more will die if Roe is overturned. By June or sooner, the U.S. Supreme Court will hand down its ruling on Dobbs versus the Jackson Women's Health Organization, which is the last remaining abortion clinic in Mississippi. If the court upholds Mississippi's 15-week abortion ban and overturns Roe, which is what Mississippi and the entire well-funded, well-organized right wing is pushing for, nearly half the states in this country are poised to ban abortion. We have a preview in Texas, with its blatantly unconstitutional 6-week ban now in effect for over 6 months, and its vigilante bounty scheme that incentivizes individuals to sue abortion providers and others. This is the same Texas where Governor Abbott has issued directives for the Department of Family and Protective Services to investigate when parents of transgender children pursue legal medical services for their child. One such investigation was temporarily halted by the state court this week, but others continue. This is outrageous and unacceptable. Also this past week, the Florida legislature passed a similar bill as Mississippi's abortion ban, just awaiting that governor's signature. This is the same Florida where legislation is also on the verge of passing that would ban instruction about sexual orientation or gender identity in some school grades. Bills like these and all attempts to legislate away our basic human rights should make us all uncomfortable. The same right wing that is mobilizing against our right to control our bodies is attacking the right to vote, of labor to organize, of gender nonconforming, of the right to have safe schools and workplaces, what is taught and not taught in those schools, and access to full reproductive health, which is an essential human right, and it should be delivered in the richest country in the world.
Yes! Yes!
Every right worth living for, fighting for, and even dying for has been won by people like us collectively organizing and mobilizing from civil rights, labor rights, LGBTQ rights, voting rights, and even forcing the U.S. government to remove its occupying forces from wars that bring death and destruction and massive cuts to desperately needed social services at home. It was in a time of rising struggles to demand our civil, racial, and women's rights that Roe v. Wade was won in the first place.
Yes!
And we know that Roe was never enough. Millions of poor, especially Black, Indigenous, and people of color, especially in the American South, uninsured, underinsured young people are denied access. Some never had access. Opponents of abortion and full reproductive rights have been chipping away at Roe since the day it was handed down. Then the Hyde Amendment cut off Medicaid funding for abortions. Maternity deaths for Black, Indigenous, and people of color are up to 5 times higher than for any other groups. And there is no safe haven. The valiant efforts of abortion funds everywhere will continue to try to meet every need, but the numbers of people who can scrape together the funds and time to travel to states like Illinois is rising dramatically from Texas and other states and will continue. And millions more are facing their lives being upended and even dying, and we say no to that. Yes. Now is the time to get back into the streets and stay in the streets and join with others whose rights are under attack.
Yes!
We cannot allow a few individuals in robes sitting in their high, remote, and protected chambers to tell us what we need or what our rights should be.
Yes!
We must fight them as we always have. If we don't fight, we can't win. If we do fight, we can win. The feminists in Colombia, Mexico, Argentina, across Latin America have shown us what is possible. So have those in Ireland and even in Poland, where the massive battle continues. We are called to action. We must find a way to bring everyone who agrees with us, those upwards of 80%, to join us in the streets, to demand and win our rights. No Mississippi ban, no Texas ban, no Florida ban, no ban anywhere. Yes. Not now, yes. Not ever. Extend full access to abortion and all reproductive care to everyone who needs it. Yes. We want access to abortion on demand and without apology.
Say it!
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lam. I'm a student organizer with Kappa DePaul, and I would just like to say something about what it's like being a student and how this affects us as a student. As a DePaul student, I condemn the Vincentian Catholic Church's silence in regards to our reproductive rights. The silence signals their complicity in policing our bodies and subjugating our right to opportunities and family planning as young people. This will harm the futures of marginalized students the most, as the Catholic Church has a long history of protecting the white race through the policing of marginalized bodies. The overturning of Roe v. Wade affects us all. Vincentian values ask us to cohabitate, love, and care for each other as a community. How can we do so when the institution that educates us allows for rampant campus sexual assault, ableism, homophobia, transphobia, racism, and classism? Unless the Vincentian Catholic Church actively educates, funds resources, and stands in support with us, this campus remains actively denying marginalized students from accessing an education in a future. Thank you.
How's everyone doing?
Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. So, we're in front of Sutter and Halstead, and most people who are from Chicago assume Chicago to be a very liberal, open, accepting city. Am I right?
Yeah.
I think what's very clear to a lot of us is, despite the fact that we live in a very, very liberal city, there is constant battle with not only our mayor, but the people that the mayor puts in power, just to get our own rights and our own voices heard, and it's absolutely despicable. We're in the city of Chicago right now protesting for abortion rights because it's safe. A lot of us have access to these resources that we need, not only for women's bodies, but for all of our bodies. But unfortunately, we live in a country where that isn't true for a majority of people. Like it was mentioned, Texas is undergoing really strict laws against women's bodies and are coming to other places to find sanctuary and to find resources that they need so they can be safe. Despite the fact that we are in a liberal city, we still need to fight for the rights for others so that they can have access to what they need so they can continue getting safe reproductive health that they deserve. And despite the fact that we are in Chicago, we're not safe. Absolutely not. We live in a bubble. And 2020 showed us how easily we can pop a bubble and have destruction and mayhem across the city just because we're fighting for our rights.
Got it. That's right.
Right now, Roe v. Wade is being at risk to be overturned. And when that happens, I'm saying when, because the U.S. government has time and time again shown that they do not care about us as people. They care about politicians, they care about money, they care about lining their pockets, they do not care about us. So when it happens, we have to make sure that we are all together as community, protecting each other, not just in spaces like these, with our neighbors, with our co-workers, with our family, with our friends. We have to continue educating each other so that we don't end up in a worse situation than we were before.
Yes, say it. Yes, yes, say it.
With us being in front of Center Northalsted, which is a very inclusive space for all queer people to come to for resources, we need to understand that women's bodies aren't the only bodies that are at risk right now. All queer, gender nonconforming, trans, non-binary people are at risk for getting the reproductive health resources taken away from them.
Yes.
We need to continue fighting for not only women's bodies, but for all of our bodies, because we are all at risk. As we continue marching and having conversations like these, we need to keep in mind how to be inclusive to everybody so that they know that they aren't being left behind in this fight. Black and brown people are consistently undergoing harm because of the color of our skin. And we deserve these rights even more so because we're the ones who essentially gave you all these rights. So keep that in mind as we march today, keep that in mind after we march today, keep that in mind for the rest of your life. You have to make sure that our bodies are consistently protected. Black and brown bodies, black and brown queer bodies, black and brown trans bodies, we need the utmost protection as we are going through this. I know we keep hearing women's rights. I want to keep hearing our rights because all of us are at risk right now. So as we go on today, please, please, please walk with intention. Walk with a lot of love in your hearts and understand that this fight does not stop here. It will never stop here until we all are able to get the reproductive health rights that we need.
The sister song that defines reproductive justice as the right to bodily autonomy, the right to not bear children, the right to bear children and to raise them in safety and dignity. For each of those rights, we need universal access to health care with no out-of-pocket costs and with free choice of providers. And that's what we work for in the single-payer national health care movement. So please chant with me. Fight, fight, fight! Healthcare is a human right!
Fight, fight, fight!
Healthcare is a human right! Thank you.
The people of reproductive age are now living under those laws in Texas, where vigilantes have been unleashed to attack women, anyone who helps them, anyone seeking or supporting abortion rights are now criminalized in Texas. And frankly, the silence is devastating. This cannot stand. I have to say, we recognize that it's only our actions that is going to save the right to abortion. It is only the fact that women fought and fought and fought, and our allies, that got us the right to abortion, and that is all that will save it.
Yeah, thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Danica. I'm a part of a women's founded peace organization that was started in response to the United States invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan. Imperialism and patriarchy are ideologies and practices rooted in control. They're unsustainable, harmful, and targeted. Peace activists recognize that the peace starts within our own communities. It starts in our interpersonal relationships and the ways we stand up for justice for ourselves and for each other. Because peace cannot be achieved without justice. A just world would be one where any person who needs an abortion can get one, not only safely and easily, but for free.
Yes. Right. Yes.
For free and wherever they find themselves in this country.
Yes.
We're a country that puts almost $800 billion into our military.
That ain't right.
Into funding U.S. violence abroad. We are a country that preaches austerity for the people, but not for the Pentagon. Let's talk about what we deserve. We deserve safety as people who can get pregnant. We deserve access to free health care, not affordable health care.
Yes.
And in that framework, abortion is health care.
Right.
Healthcare is a right.
worry about whether they can afford prenatal care. Reproductive rights is about so much more than abortion. And we have to fight tooth and nail to protect our rights here in Illinois, but all over the country where abortion is under attack. We know what's best for ourselves, not members of Congress, not the Supreme Court, and absolutely not insurance companies. Attacks on abortion rights are attacks in all of our movements. Let's continue to be in solidarity with one another. Thank you all so much.
We are on the precipice of a national crisis. And I hope that all the students back there who maybe have... Now is the time to get up and get out in the streets. Join our groups. Let your voices be heard. This is not the time to be quiet. This is not the time to say that you are too busy. We are all busy. Please get out here with us. Let your voices be heard. Fight for abortion justice.
With the Women's Health Protection Act failing to pass in the Senate as abortion trigger bans begin across the country, it is more important than ever to use our anger to motivate us and take our struggle to the streets. I would like to share a few words from my comrade Anna, written for her Breaking the Chains article in celebration of International Women's Day that we should all consider while we stand here today. Reproductive rights, like every other major contradiction in the U.S., can be boiled down to one question: who holds the power to determine their own fate? At this moment, people do not have power to control our own reproduction. It is our duty to stop the lies and stigma about abortion, organize for full reproductive health care for all, and continue to open the doors for women to militarily persist in the struggle and ultimately win abortion for once and for all. Women keep women safe, and that was only heightened during the COVID-19 pandemic. States like Texas deemed abortion medically unnecessary. Shout out to the relentless abortion rights organizers in those states who have been working tirelessly on the front lines of these legislative attacks. In a bittersweet personal twist, I helped a friend who had just escaped a domestic violence situation travel to Chicago from Texas a few months into the pandemic to have an abortion. She had supported me during my abortion over a decade ago, an abortion that took place at what is now the last abortion clinic left in Missouri. We need to let stories like this and oppressive anti-abortion legislation being passed all over the country inspire us and motivate us to take our struggle to the streets, just like we all are today. It is easy to lose hope, but we keep us safe and we fight for each other. This is a fight that not only affects women, but trans men, non-binary people, and anyone who cares for us. Every success in the women's and abortion rights movement have been won through our collective struggle. Socialism is the only solution to everything that ails us in this capitalist country, from lack of health care, police brutality, to imperialist war. We must band together not only as women, but as working class people to fight back, now more than ever, starting with our demand for safe and legal abortion for all. Thank you.
First and foremost, we must make sure that in this reproductive justice movement, the needs of Black and brown women, Asian women, Native American women are addressed. They have to be top priority.
We're at DePaul University because, as many of you are probably aware, besides being an important campus that has a history of student activism and many struggles, it also happens to be true that a majority of Catholics in this country are for the right to legal abortion with unfettered access. And in the weeks right before this protest, we received a message from one of the leaders of Catholics for Choice, based in Washington, D.C., saying they were in support of what we were doing here in Chicago, and they want to be part of that national effort that we talked about earlier and Andy mentioned, to get people together across the country to stand up in massive numbers to demand that Roe be upheld and that we fight for abortion access for all. That is pretty significant. And the last thing about Catholics for Choice is they were organized on January 22nd, which was the 49th anniversary of Roe v. Wade. We're in half a century of at least having that official protection. And they organized protests. They stood up and countered those anti-abortion right-wingers in Washington, D.C. So let us not forget that. Let us incorporate that and build on that. They are one of our allies.
Now. What do we want? Abortion rights. When do we want it? Now. Abortion rights. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Abortion rights. And when do we want it? Now. What do we want? Abortion rights. And when do we want it? Now. What do we want? Abortion rights. And when do we want it? Now.
If you're a cis gay man who's concerned about your rights, but doesn't care about what happens to abortion rights, then I'd argue you're not only short-sighted, you're probably a fool. Because if and when the Supreme Court trashes the right to legal abortion this spring, your rights are next in the crosshairs. The religious right will take that win against women and gender non-conforming people to pile on against even more people's rights. Say it. Yes. And as Linda was outlining just a few minutes ago, we've already seen that in real time. In Florida, early last month, the House passed a measure dubbed the Don't Say Gay Bill, banning discussion of LGBTQ people and allowing parents to sue school districts who allegedly violate that ban. And feeling their oats from that vote last month, just 2 nights ago, the same Florida House passed a bill which, as Linda mentioned, mimics Mississippi's anti-abortion bill that's currently up before the Supreme Court. One outrage has piled onto another. And so long as we are not together in solidarity, the other side will pick us off one by one by one by one. Yes. But it needn't be this way. I haven't given up on Roe v. Wade. I know it's an uphill battle, but we should not give up on Roe v. Wade. We do not surrender. Roe v. Wade was won by a very different kind of movement than we see today. Following the inspiration of Stonewall, LGBTQ people were not just concerned about our own narrow rights. We were concerned and active in the streets, defending the Black Panthers against racist police attacks. And the Black Panthers were not narrowly concerned about racism narrowly defined, but were also organizing against the U.S. war against the Vietnamese people. And again, they were not narrowly talking about racism. They were talking about class with their breakfast programs and their health programs, things that we still, as our last speaker mentioned, so desperately need today. And women of all races organizing in the civil rights movement use those experiences to relaunch a more radical women's movement that forced a conservative Supreme Court to concede legal abortion in 1973. The movements were not separate. In many ways, they were one. Yes! And that's something we need to learn from. Finally, if there's one thing we can learn from the drip, drip, drip erosion of access to abortion and reproductive rights over the 49 years since Roe v. Wade, it's this. The politicians, especially the Democratic Party, who have promised to defend Roe v. Wade, have failed us. Yes! I repeat that. The politicians have failed us. Yes! Yes! The courts, for all their somber language about, quote-unquote, no undue burden for those seeking abortions, have failed us. This spring, a group of unelected, mostly political hacks gussied up in black robes will presume to have the unilateral privilege to decide what your rights are. Boom! Boom! We can't sit back and hope that they will see the light and save us. After 49 years, we can't hope that the politicians who say they support us will suddenly develop spines. There's a reason why there are no politicians speaking here today. There's a reason why the main event is not people like me standing in front of a microphone, but the march that you all are about to participate in. There's a reason why that's the main event. It's because people just like you were the ones who won abortion rights and so many other rights in the past. It was not the politicians, it was not the courts, it was not people standing in front of a damn microphone.
Yeah, it was us! It was us!
You need to do much more than this. You need to see yourselves as organizers, people who talk to your friends, people who talk to your neighbors, people who talk to your coworkers, your fellow students, because that's how movements were built. And we need to build them in a way that, as I said, is intersectional, is about solidarity. It's not just my rights. It's about everyone's rights, because if one of us goes down, we all are threatened with going down. We can't wait for the politicians or the big NGOs to do it for us. We need to do it ourselves.
Say it. Say it.
If the people lead, the leaders will follow. Okay? Because that's what it's going to take to defend our rights. The politicians, courts won't do it. It's up to each of us. Thank you.
1, 2, 3, 4. Her body, her choice, her decision, her voice, her body, her choice, her decision, her voice, her body, her choice, her decision, her voice, her body, her choice, her decision, her voice. Now we will fight for reproductive rights, for reproductive rights. We will fight for reproductive rights, for reproductive rights. Back to the chorus. Her body, her choice, her decision, her voice, her body, her choice, her decision, her voice. And women's rights are human rights, are human rights. Women's rights are human rights, are human rights, are human rights. Back to the chorus. Her body, her choice, yeah, her decision, her voice, her body,